Hello, this is Asher, and welcome back to more Roadwarden, where we last left off, just beginning to visit the very friendly people of Gale Rocks. As it turns out, it is not a very friendly place. We have explored a little bit of the northern reaches of the world. Actually, you can see that we're kind of late in the day right now, so there's a question of whether we should try to make it back to Foggy's or if we should go to somebody else. But you can see the map is already like, you can't get to some of these places before nightfall. And Roadwarden is not a game where you want to be caught before nightfall without at least preparing here. So we've met Portia, we've met Rafina. We do have a few quests that we have been dealing with here. If I go ahead and look at my journal real quick. We have an issue with the closed tunnel. I'd love to know a little bit more about that, and maybe somebody here should know. We're not in Old Pagos right now. We're still looking for the old Roadwarden. Maybe I should start by trying to look for Asterion. Maybe I already tried to do that before, but remember, our goal is to try to get a new life here. So we could definitely try to do that. Let's look for some people here. Let's start with Asterion, if I spelled it right. Right, your warding friend, a guard you speak to, doesn't hide her content. He ain't been here for many days, almost since the start of the season. You ask where you can find him, but she gives you a bored shrug and walks away. You ask the other folks as well, but they don't have much to say. He did some small jobs for us, says a salt worker without meeting your eye, too busy with throwing firewood in the basket. The last soul, he suddenly freezes and looks around. We are the last people to ask, I mean. You try to push him into sharing more, but he finds an escape when his overseer shouts at him, "Get your ass moving!" Well, that's interesting. The last soul, we are the last people to ask. Fascinating. Okay, well. That feels like a clue. If we're looking for someone else, the last soul. Okay, so that was a little bit too much. Okay, well, there are some other people that I can look for here, and some of this is just based off of what we talked about before. Can we ask anybody about the tunnel? You either don't know. Okay, so how about the miner? Oh, the locals explain that centuries-old caves need a little bit of work, and the humble fixes they put into the walls and sheds are taken care of whenever such a need arises. After a few minutes of chatting, one of the children leads you to an elderly woman responsible for looking at the condition of damn buildings. The digger called Ayuno, already wrinkled, gray-haired, and slightly stooped. She's I almost said shitting. She's sitting at the eastern gate, placing tiny building blocks on the table, raising a tall tower without making it collapse. Her hands are steady and precise. Her large eyes blink so rarely that you want to rub your own. She spares you a look and leans back, resting against the wall, then crosses her arms and critically observes her toys. Cheers, stranger. I have time. So we want to learn more about the tunnel to the south, or we are more to look for construction works? Let's learn about the tunnel. It's older than any human soul, but it's not ancient. Those who dug through the mountain were still around when I was but a small lass. The village saved everything it got from trade and more than a generation to bring that bronze gate from Hollivan here. The pickaxes and all them tools and nails. It has a single long corridor that reaches from one end to the other and a few chambers on both sides, where travelers used to spend a night if they were desperate enough. Don't try it without a group of guards now. Monsters also love deep caves, and the days are getting colder. So why was it locked in the first place? It depends on who you ask. Let's just say that the great turmoil happened, 10 years ago? The settlements grew further apart, traded less. Keeping a garrison of fighters and builders at the tunnel brought little value. We had to put a greater trust in our own work and not the caravans, once again foraging, cutting trees, and farming. With time, more and more beasts gathered around the tunnel, getting used to seeing no pushback. She looks at an old plank that's been resting behind her stool. She compares its thickness with her toys, then reaches for a gouge and a handsaw. It was 3 years back when a few traders of our own went missing. Our search group found a gate, locked it from the inside. They tried to check it, but left the place when they saw moving shells, dead and fleshless. We've decided to clean it someday in the future, maybe hire a group of strangers to take the risk upon themselves. She glances at you, but so far, none have reached out to our village. Well, so she wants me to open the tunnel. That sure sounds like it. So local construction. That's pretty much it. She glances at the spread wooden blocks. Every few springs or summers, I gather a crew to build something new, or rather replace an old hovel with something fresh. But most of these days, I just make sure the roofs don't fall on our heads and the cribbing in the caves ain't too moist. Then the coopers help me, or a bunch of fishers. She gives your axe a long look, then reaches for her much smaller hatchet and shaves off one of the toys, slightly narrowing it. For centuries, there's been merely one digger at a time, and this custom serves us well, it does. So, a digger is an unusual name. And what would your usual name be, a builder? After you shrug, grasp one of her wooden blocks like a dagger. Our forebears used them to dig in rocks, widening the caves, and it was a name with a great honor behind it. And when I look around, she does so to prove her point. It reminds me of our long path from hiding to thriving and on the surface. She can't hide her smile. So, did her crew build to keep up the hill? By the way, it's really interesting here. I don't remember. Maybe I just missed the beginning of the game. This building's actually being highlighted when we talked to her. I wonder if that was one of the patch updates, or if that's always been there and I just missed it before. She looks in its direction. The whitewashed walls make it look brighter than many clouds. We started when I was only 10, still learning from the previous digger. Her voice is full of pride. There used to be a humble watchtower there with tents all around it. Now we can all stay locked inside its thick walls, but also shoot arrows from the wall, roof, and windows. You ask her if the keep has ever been used by the locals in combat, and she suddenly grows disheartened. You'd be surprised, would you? There are tales of dragons, pirates, and bandits, but all of those happened before the war. These lands were different, though I can't say exactly how. So with the merchants, you have enough building materials for your needs? Better ask the coopers. They struggle with timber. The good thing about digging in hills is that we always have enough stone. Our rocks are crude, but we don't need to sculpt pile on them. She turns a few building blocks into a small wall. So, let's look for a cooper, if everybody has their own word here. The coopers, the carpenters in general, have a space at the edge of the village. Well, there it is. So we are getting like the little highlights. That's exciting. Separated from the saltery with a stone wall that catches the shavings before they reach the fish, and which are then swept into a pile and moved into the smokehouse. You walk between the 4 woodworkers, while the last one, a young woman with an apologetic smile, leaves the thatched store. She's wearing a heavy, worn... oh my goodness, sorry. A heavy, worn robe, half brown, half yellow, covered with dust and wood chips, and carries under her arm a sack of willow withies. I think that's withies. The 2 small seashells and many shades of orange are hanging from her ears. Stranger, we need space here. So, I was hoping to learn about your work. I'm from Havelman. With a sigh of relief, she approaches an unfinished barrel, whose staves are getting pressed together with a dense cage of weaved withies. In the city, the coopers would use old iron hoops, which would take less than a 20th of the labor. She drops her delivery and touches your shoulders with her large, strong hand. So the guild wants to speak trade again? Very well, all right, very well. Let me show you around. I'm Damida, the head carpenter, I guess. She states with hesitation, and one of her workers mockingly snorts. Your guide laughs in response. Shag an eel, idiot. Her small crew laughs. So we'll just play along. Like I said, one of the things I learned in one of my first village visits is that maybe we don't need to be as forlorn here with people we don't know. Her teeth are mostly yellow but straight. My predecessor lost his eyes to a harpy a few days back, so I'm new to this role, but don't worry, I know what I'm doing. She confidently straightens up. Right, we have 2 types of work, barrels and everything else. On the good days, we make a barrel. On the bad days, we fail. She laughs. But that's fine. We can always get it done after a good sleep. She goes into greater detail, and your eyes start to wander between the benches, pieces of cut wood, mallets, axes, and shaving tools. Noticing this, she nods towards her other workers. When the barrels are resting and bending, we do other things, but only for our own farmers, builders, and fishers. Navika is the most experienced of us, so she makes boats, paddles, right? Responsible task. The tiny woman she points at doesn't even raise her eyes. We sometimes make furniture, we do, but merely when something breaks. And I'm going to do something I didn't do last time. Hopefully I have a writing utensil nearby. I don't know if I do. It's a full-on Sharpie. That's fine. I'll just breathe in these fumes here, and we're just going to Write the name down so that I don't mess it up later. So the barrels are the most important. Do you have enough wood for them? Not really. We use oak, beech, and pine, but the staves have to rest for 3 years, sometimes 2, sometimes 4. Every day I bring 14 steves and 2 headers here, and we replace them with new ones. We're careful with what we have, but it's hard to plan years in advance. She gives you a warm smile. You need to talk about it with my neighbors first, but maybe the guild would like to provide us with some timber. We'd rather barter than lock the coins in the keep, you see. The guild won't move wood from their own stalls so far to the north, but they may help you set up a new hamlet if you find a partner who lives closer to Hag Hills. Well, that's exciting. Hag Hills. Let's check the map again. Hag Hills, Hag Hills. That's Foggy Lake. That's Creeks. What's a Hag Hills? Well, maybe it's somewhere we were supposed to visit that we haven't visited yet. Right, it would need to be someone outside the peninsula. Here, everyone cuts only for themselves. They do, even the jesters from Creeks. We used to have Camp of Lumberjacks, but now our warehouse gets emptier every day. I feel like I should know what Hag Hills is. Well, apparently it's not that important right now. For a bit, you discuss whether the value of the wagon filled with the logs or planks, but the discussion leaves your area of expertise quickly. You simply promise to get the message to the merchants, and Domina wishes you a safe journey. Taking one more look at the workshop. You hear angry shouts coming from the rock-carved houses, but suddenly they stop. We go to... Well, that's nice. The local scout, when we ask about Asterion. I can still learn about the wares this village has to offer. So let's look for Navika. Navika is the best boat maker in the north, says a young boy with a proud posture. Come, I'll take you to her. The carpenters have their space at the edge of the village. So we're over here now. Where were we? At the edge of the village, separated from the saltery, and with a stone wall that catches the shavings before they reach the fish, and which are then swept into a pile and moved to the smokehouse. I don't know why my dog's yelping now, but that's exciting. The tiny woman keeps her distance from the other workers, partially because of the many bits and pieces she needs constantly at hand, as well as the logs, steam planks, and a boat keel only a few steps away from her. She must be at least 40, older than any other woodworker in sight. Her light brown hair is in a ponytail letting her work, and the simple tunic and plants made of hemp and 3 shades of red have short sleeves and legs. Her tan skin is like dark honey. She glances at you from afar and turns away, cutting some sort of log without pause, as if hoping you won't notice her. The massive broadaxe made of fine steel looks even larger, as if it's resting on her back, and it's engraved with the shape of a toothed eel twisted into a spiral. The kid leaves you alone and you're standing in silence. I could walk away, or I could say, I heard you make boats. Yep, I make boats. She doesn't raise an eye. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Okay, so we don't have any business with her yet. We do look around anxiously here. We got 3.5 hours before dusk. You know, we've been able to pop into a few things here. You know, they said something about salt makers. Let's look for salt. Okay. The building has many entrances and windows, and each of them lets out so much steam that one could take this place for a city sauna. You're addressing a man who carries a basket of fireworks. I'm working, he growls. Speak with Albus. His last word is shouted through the open door to another worker. Hearing it, he looks in your direction, puts away a wooden mold, and heads outside, taking a few deep breaths of cool air. Cheers, cheers! Are you by yourself? Who do you represent? He's not older than 30, matching his name. His skin and his hair are white, although with a healthy pink hidden in his cheeks, nose, and lips, making him look as if he's blushing. When you state vaguely that you're from Havlovan, his curiosity is already satisfied. All right, good to have you back. After, 5 years? Our process is the same, and so the lumps look the same. The guild will be satisfied. Better keep your head now. So I follow him inside. The tour takes a good couple of minutes, and while your guide seems very confident in describing the salt-making process step by step in great detail, he doesn't take into consideration that you may be completely unqualified to have this conversation. You try to catch the gist of it, though neither the sounds of the flames and the scratching nor the humid air or the smell of sweaty bodies help you focus. The brine is carried here from a cave pond deep beneath the village, and then boiled in large open pans made of coarse ceramic, heated by stoves. As water evaporates, it leaves salt behind and steams a few planks above it. Before they get back to the carpenters, the salt is carried into a drying surface, then lumped into white bricks, which then use wooden molds. Many things can go wrong, he finishes his tale, but nothing goes to waste. Then shattered lumps get into the fish barrels. All is good. We won't sell you anything of poor quality. So we try to learn a bit about the price. He gives you a few numbers: how many coins, how much flour, how much iron the locals would take for a single lump. And at first the prices surprise you, but then you take one of the clumps and rub it with your thumb. 1 brick would be more than a household would use in a year. Albus interrupts your thoughts. Questions? You put the salt on the table and glance at the steaming pan again. Even though there are only 3 workers here, you realize the production must consume a mound of firewood every year. So where do they get the trees from? He doesn't answer right away, choosing his words carefully. We have supplies, and we trade for them with other villages, or at least used to. We cut trees as well. Used to do so more back in the day. We had a lumberjack hamlet far away, so the beast didn't get angry they didn't. So we thank him for his time. There we go. We have, I don't know what happened to the salt person here, but it's really nice to know that we had that here. Okay, anybody else that we want to look for? We looked at boats. Can we look for, like, a fisher? You're told the fishers are spending long hours at the beach in the north and can be found in the village only during the very early or very late hours. So, well, it's almost very late. I wonder what that is. Is that like a gladiatorial pit or something? Let's see if we can go to the castle. Keep. Let's try, not maybe. Mayor. Okay, that worked. A young basket weaver with legs too short and thin to her to stand on scoffs at your question. Ah, you don't even know her name, or that we call her head woman? Like all the outsiders, you know nothing of our customs, yet think you can bother us. Before you respond, she looks at the white building on the hill. She's in the keep. Scat. You head to the western bank and walk past the big kitchen. The steep path leads through an open, unguarded gate, and you look around the yard. You notice a few pigeons running around, keenly observed by a pet griffin tied to a wooden beam, some drying underwear hanging from a rope, a spiked flail leaning against the wall carelessly, and a knocked-over bucket lying in a puddle of water. The place may be messy, but it's not impaired of its function. Preparing for its defense wouldn't take longer than a few minutes, and judging by the walk of the bailey, it could stand an attack from a large squad of soldiers. The current state of the place makes you think of Havelvan, whose stronghold yards and temple walls are often surrounded by small peddlers, a few of which are even allowed to set up their stalls. As long as they don't hinder anyone else's task, they are allowed to pursue the scarce scraps of open space. So we look to the keep. The bright walls stand out from the other structures in the villages, and as far as you can tell, the current layer of the whitewash is still fresh. There must be at least 3 floors inside, enough space to contain more than 100 people, though without much between them, there are arrow slits in the walls and the roof is surrounded by a fence-like barrier, a perfect spot for boulder throwers and archers. The large entrance door is ajar, with a wrinkled man sitting on a pillow placed on the stairs. He's not wearing a gamson, but a fine steel sickle sword at his side makes it clear that he's not just a regular guard. He stops what he's doing, carving a figurine from a log, and stands up to greet you. Cheers, Roadwarden. Servinia was told about your arrival. Follow me. He may be old, but he is tall and with the long, thin arms of the sea folk, a neatly groomed beard, and his gray hair in a ponytail. As you follow him, you're hit by the strong scent of cloves. So we climb up the stairs. Oh, sweet. The door is thick and can be barricaded with 2 wooden bars. The hall is filled with benches, some of which were placed on top of the others, giving a bit more space for now. There is one path to the next floor, suspiciously covered with planks. The chamber is free from the roaring of the river, the shouts of the workers, and the chaos of the animals, or the smell of the cooked food. The room is well lit both by sunlight and candles, and quite drafty, though you still smell perfumes and aging wood. You doubt anyone lives here or even uses this room for dining. The Roadwarden is here, says the guard, and approaches the desk, standing between you and the old woman sitting behind it. Well, there we go. Take a closer look. So far, she hasn't spared you as much as a glance. She's writing on a large wax tablet with the stylus as large as a dagger, and since she's a bit stooped, you only see her from the chest up. She's wearing a thick, warm dress in the color of a cherry, an even darker, modest hat that's covering her hair. She could be older than 70, yet her face and hands have been spared from scars harsher than some pockmarks carved by illness. If you were to encounter her in Havlahan, you would expect her to be an official or maybe a rich scribe. Some of her belongings, however, wouldn't be found in the city, in the city's desk. The wax on her tablet isn't dyed. Instead of keeping water in a cup, she has a large, colorful seashell, and the winged hourglass placed at the stone stand is made of dried seaweed. If we were a thief, we'd just try to steal all this. And we glance at a young woman in the corner. Her crossbow is pointing at you. The resemblance between her and the elder is stunning, though she's slim and a bit taller, and wears a simple dark blue and black woolen tunic. While she's resting on a chair, she looks at you almost without blinking, with hardly any movement, like a cat staring at a rat trying to judge if you're defenseless prey or a threat. So we could be friendly. It's nice to meet you. We could be playful. We don't like being playful. And I could say greetings or cheers, headwoman. I think since we were told she's headwoman, let's just say cheers. She raises her violet eyes slowly. Ooh. All the colorful eyes. She raises her violet eyes slowly and looks at you kindly, putting away her stylus. Cheers, Roadwarden. She speaks with a hint of amusement, but it lasts only as long as those two words. I expect there's something only I can help you with? After a short pause, she clasps her hands at her desk. Let's hear it. Her accent is not as thick of those among the younger villagers, keeping a shadow of the years when the guild had tighter ties with the peninsula. But since she has no teeth, you have to think for a moment before you recognize some of her words. So, look at all these questions we have. Okay, we have a lot of things that we can ask. I don't know if I want to start with Asterion, considering how far away things are. I don't think I want to waste your time asking about Gale Rocks right now. Let's ask about work. She rubs her eyes over you, then frowns without much of a hint of subtlety. Show me first that you work something. Work with our fishers. Find someone seeking a messenger. I don't need a stranger before autumn, when we'll trade for grain. Oh, that's fair. So the necromancer's in White Marshes. Let's ask about this. You almost jump away and the crossbowman shifts her position, but it turns out just to be uncomfortable with the way she was sitting. Servinia smirks, but as she starts to speak, her voice grows worried. What happens in White Marshes is a sign of cowardice and weakness. I've seen my share of harsh years, and I sympathize, I do, with tribes that had to feed their people with tree bark or decide which mother will get to eat enough to feed infants. But all them walking corpses will get out of the charms and murder their masters, like they always do, and instead of hunger and cold, they'll face the end of their souls. All we can do is keep ourselves safe. You try to ask a few more questions, but to no avail. We don't really travel there often, stranger, and some of the knowledge we gathered on this place is for our ears alone. I nod. She can't trust that I will keep anything between us. My patience runs short, outsider. Servinia gestures to pause. Are there other matters that can't wait till tomorrow? Well, it is getting a little late. Something else we need to discuss. Well, I do want to talk about Asterion. She shrugs and reaches out for one of the candles, casting a better light on one of her smaller wax tablets. I know who he is, but I've only spoken with him a few times and heard that he stopped visiting the village at the beginning of summer. If he was around, I would know about it, I would. You mentioned that you doubt the Roadwarden would simply ignore a headwoman of such a large village, and she looks at the ceiling, chewing on her bottom lip. I don't know what you're trying to imply, she says with a tone that won't accept any discussion. I had as much in common with him as I have with you. I don't trust strangers with critical tasks, and if a warden of any kind wants to demonstrate that they know what they're doing, I invite them to survive a year or two before they bark. So we don't respond. She observes you without a word, but her fingers are tapping the table. The guard is giving you a telling look. I want to know about the tunnel. We're not going to waste your time with Gale Rocks. I can tell you that the venerable digger Una will tell you more about it than you ever want to hear, she will. Before the war, it used to be crossed every 10-20 days, enough for us to keep it garrisoned. But with how little use it has now, I'd be mad to ask any of you to throw themselves at the beasts that live there. She glances at an open pouch that's laying nearby with a few dragon bones sticking out of it. Her toothless grimace is hard to read. And don't offer me your services to merely get rid of the Awoken. I need long-term solutions, not violence. And sooner or later, another threat will take their place. It may as well just stay occupied, so at least no vagabonds take over. All right, well, 3 hours till dusk. Let's say farewell. Okay. I think that's probably time. Okay, well, I'm sure there are definitely some other people I can talk to here. It is late. I don't see. We already have a sleep thing here. Let's see if we can find an inn. The keeper does acknowledge your arrival until you hear her. After she leaves the dark tunnel, she says nothing, waiting patiently. So I leave the cave. All right. We must have done that last time, I guess. Okay, so I guess if we try to sleep, we can just do the sleep thing. But we still have some time. Let's go this way. All right, on your way north, the fishers greet you with polite nods and tired looks. Some of them carry the boats and tools, dividing the weight between them, while others are pulling the ropes attached to the wire barge, moving it up the river slowly. Some of the wayfarers eat while they're walking, commenting on how hungry they are after a long day. I guess it has been a long day. Wow, time did not pass while I went up here. So I slow down to talk to him. You approach a few workers in front of the group and ask who you should speak to. Photios is there, one of them tells you, and points to the tallest man dressed up in undyed wool and linen, with crystallized salt still clinging to the drying fabric. You move in his direction, and he nods for you to join him in his walk. His outfit is heavy, appropriately so for someone who spends long hours under the hits of the cold onshore winds. The massive leather boots, thick tunic, and pants, and the heavy cloak now held under his arm make you wonder if he's ever been able to swim. Like most sea folk, he has long limbs, almost no facial hair, and ears so flat that they are hardly noticeable. His neck draws your eyes. It's covered with marks left by the burning suckers of a sea monster, as wide as your finger is long. Below these scars, he's wearing a pendant made from a fist-sized black beak. He speaks first with the strong and confident voice of a young man no older than 25. We don't really sell any catch on our own. Maybe ask our smokers or the cook. Oh, I was hoping to speak with you instead. And who are you exactly? After you introduce yourself, the man raises a corner of his mouth in an angry grimace. I won't have much to tell you, Roadwarden. Like my neighbors, he looks at the nearby fishermen. I struggled with day-to-day living. I do, not adventurers, and even less so outsider schemes. Well, do you have any work for me then? We're always asking for work. Oh, it looks like he does have work. Work? What do you know about fishing? You mentioned the docks of Havelvim, but after a few questions about fishing nets, boats, and winds, it's clear you don't impress in this conversation. Teaching one how to work with us takes time, effort, and rescuing those who fall overboard. You ain't a kid of ours, so if anything, it should be you who pays us for sharing what our forebears have mastered. You explain that you can fight better than most, and that gives them an idea. Well, our guards stay at the village, so we always move in groups and waste time securing the beach from harpies and saurians we do. We could put 3 more souls on the boat and keep you on the beach. You'd guard those not fishing with nets. So what's in it for me? It's a new mundane job. It's too late for me to join the fishers in their work, though. How much do you want, stranger? He responds carefully, and you spend a few minutes discussing details. Right, you'll get a meal and 2 coins for a peaceful day and another one for putting your life at risk. But you must be at the beach soon after dusk? But it's too late for me to join them. But you must be at the beach soon before dusk when we're preparing our boats and have enough strength to convince me that you're more help than a bother. Okay, that probably is supposed to be dawn. Are you sure you don't need help with something that would fit my skills? Maybe hours on the road. He gives you a look. Well, you know what, outsider? There's something you could do for me. You can't really ruin by trying. I need you to help my daughter, Phoebe. Seeing your luck, he raises his hands. Oh, don't worry. She's fine. Merely spellless. For generations, my family used Numa to lure fish and hold our breaths, but no matter how much she practices, she can't cast even the tiniest spell. There's something wrong with her soul. He pauses, his voice grows pained. She's my only child, and I seek no new wife. I want her to have a choice of what to do, whatever she wants, and it breaks me to think she won't have a way to follow in my footsteps. So I don't know how I could help you. His eyes are absent. A few years ago, our traders were at the home of this weird enchantress by the Eastern Road. I don't know her name. She lives close to the old watchtower. You can't miss it. If she's alive, she may have these weird spirit rocks, I think. They help weaken mages. Buy one, bring it here. Maybe eating some Numa will help Phoebe learn. So, Okay, mention payment. I'm not a drifter. I don't hoard savings. We gather everything we keep, we do. A spirit rock should cost about 10 coins. Since it's quite a journey, I'm ready to pay almost everything I've got. 15. Well, that's exciting. We can flip some money here. Tell me about the enchantress. I've only seen her a few times when I was a teenager. Though she was also young, I suppose. Tall, not as tall as I am. With cold eyes. For a few days she was around. She kept to herself. People say she's a witch, and a mad one at that. So what does your daughter think about this? What does she think? Well, he looks at you as if you're mad, then glances at the nearby fishers. She'd be heartbroken to realize she's soulless. Ooh, that's a slip. I mean spellless. I won't tell her unless I have no other way. She's merely a child. I'm doing what's best for her. So it seems like I don't want to pry too far here if he's willing to pay this much. I've asked our sorcerers, so I'll ask him if it's a good idea. I've asked our sorcerers about what they felt they used the stones. Their pneuma grows stronger than on most days, and nothing bad happens to them. We risk nothing, outsider, he says, with growing irritation, and stops himself from scratching the scars on his neck. I'm not going to pry. We'll take the money. So he gives a quick command to another fisher. See you later. So we can go to the fish, or we can go to the beach, or we can go to Gale Rocks. Let's ride to the beach. Okay. The roars of the sea reach you first, then the cold wind and light, and there are hardly any shrubs nearby. As you ride downhill towards the white and gold beach, the sunbeams hit you with full force. The sea here is not like the one in Havelvan's port. The harbor and waters most people see during their busy days are full of life, ships, warehouses, traders, dockers, and of course there's Sickle, the barrier island that provides the city with its lagoon, but also serves as a home to dozens of species of birds, monkeys, and rodents. For most people, the sea is never silent. But one travels to Sickle and looks west or embarks on a boat and sails away. There's yet another view, a very different one. The never-ending blue, the emptiness, the humming waves, the monster swimming to the surface just to take a breath, not even interested in the wooden vessels. Many say that if one jumps off the sea with a heavy stone, they will drown before they touch the seabed. Here, however, the water can't be separated from the rocks that cut through it, as you can clearly see right here. Like a swarm of mushrooms in a dark forest, their shapes and sizes vary, but it's their number that makes them unusual. If you were to name each one, you'd have to make up at least half the names. There's no doubt that the name Gale Rocks comes from the stones piercing through the surface of the water are shapes like beast fangs, as if they're asking ships to dare to test their strength. So, where it's possible I keep the greener parts of the beach, sand can be awful for hooves. Well, I've seen horses at the beach, and they seem okay, but that's fine. You follow the sharp turn to the right. The road remains broad enough for carts and wagons and avoids the sands, letting Sodal trot without disturbances. The grasses to the east and south are short, and hardly any shrubs have managed to oppose the harsh winds. There are no boats, nets, or fishers in sight, but the countless boot prints and footprints in sight, both on the road and next to it. You reach the end of the beaten path, getting to the stone-made pier just next to the small dolman-shaped shed. One of the doors seems to be fairly new, and you don't doubt that both of its structures have been repaired many times in the past, crumbling under the touch of their waves. Do I try to hack that open? No, I apparently leave the pier. Well, it is getting darker. We can't make it to places before nightfall. We can't make it to Foggy Lake in time for nightfall. And honestly, how much money do I have? Oh, and this is good too because I'm losing my voice. Let's look at my inventory here. We have 2 money, some wild plants, an old blanket. See, this is part of what I want to do. We are asked to read the contents of this. We haven't found anyone who can read yet. Maybe I should look and see if somebody can read in town. So if we travel here, maybe we can do that later. I feel like we've gotten a lot of what we can out of Gale Rocks right now. Let's go back to Foggy. All right, there's a hint of a strange stench and fresh claw marks left on the ground. A large saurian entered and left the yard through the lake. The tavern staff is sitting in the stairs enjoying the light and silence, so it is now officially dusk. So we enter the tavern here. We don't need to eat right now. If we want to buy something, we have 3 meals left, which is very exciting. And we don't really know what else is going on here. We can just hit the sleep button. So We can sleep in the main hall or we can sleep in the attic for 1 rent. That's fine. So we're going to need some more money before long, but it's fine. Like most people, you wake in the middle of almost every night. Before your second sleep comes, you spend an hour or two taking care of your belongings, shell and soul. Some people spend this time with their friends, families, or lovers, but your routine is different. If you don't have to take care of any essential task, well, we can stretch. Oh, that's, this is fascinating. So I guess, we also I managed to reach the sea. Well, that's exciting. Huh. Well, it's probably a good thing to check our horse here, although stretching and stuff doesn't seem bad. But this is another interesting thing, is like we're on a world that maybe doesn't have a 24-hour day. Certainly we have 14 hours of daytime in the dusk here, but let's check on Sodal. Middle of the night, bond with our animal here. And we are hungry, so listening to the grunts of the annoyed Sodal makes you feel uneasy, but at least the fur is covering the floor, helping you relax. You don't notice when it's already morning, and while the smell coming from the lower floor is not inviting, at least it's not you who had to take care of it. So I'd like to eat. So we eat and get a little bit more stuff here. That's a little bit of time. And let's go back out here and let's go ahead and travel. I want to go ahead and go to Creeks real quick. I know we're close to time to go here, and I kind of want to actually explore some of the stuff down here again. But I feel like it's probably better first if I finish my route around here. But I do want to go to Creeks because I do have some evidence of what happened to one of the hunters. And if I don't do that now, then we're going to miss out here. So let's go to Elfrin about the hunters. Well, damn. We found a blanket that belongs to one of the hunters. I guess we didn't find the hunters. Well, that was a total waste of time. Does old Hava need anything? We could buy a roast chicken. I will buy 1 roast chicken. So we are now broke. It's like Star Sector. Do we have a fish trap in our inventory? No, we don't. I was wondering why it said we can only carry 1 at a time. I guess because I can't afford it, so... We have a troll bone tablet. I doubt anybody here can read. So I need a wooden lantern. Dream of caves and treasures. He glances at the nearest plank of pikes. I should have some glue and leather to spare, but making a lantern would take me half a day, and I've got a lot of sewing ahead. Maybe another time. So, okay. At least we know. Since we got a little bit of time, and that was a waste of time, let's waste a little bit more of our time over here real quick. So the forests are lush but not too dark, and for most of the time you're surrounded by yellow meadows. The few foraging deer and boars keep their distance, and the birds are disinterested in your presence. Singing cheerfully and preening their feathers, sounds of an ongoing hunt reach you from the east, but none of the nearby creatures seem bothered. You look at the tall hills in the south, but the road leads through a valley. There's a gentle smoke coming from one of the mountains in the west. It doesn't look like the place on fire. Maybe there is a settlement in the mountains. Well, where are we? We're over here. Oh, that's not a good sound. The road leads to a gentle creek filled with buzzing flies and mosquitoes and gnats. You don't spot any critters along the tall meadow, tree branches, or rocky slopes. Seeing the shapeless dark vortex of wings, Sodal snorts. You're currently on the northern bank. So we don't want to blaze a torch. We could look for a different route. Let's see if there's a different route. The path is barely squeezed between the hills with no signs of settlements or game trails. And the grass is too tall and dense to allow you safely to ride through the wilderness. You won't reach the other bank without entering the swarm. Well, I'm going to wrap myself up here because last thing I want is like bug bites and stupidity here. It takes you longer than you'd hoped for, but you manage to cover yourself with armor of at least 3 layers of linen, wool, and hemp. Only your eyes and a single finger remain without cover. Once you get closer to the ford, countless creatures beset you, making you instantly shut your eyes. They're striking the clothes, covering your open mouth, and hitting your shell like a squishy, buzzing hail. You ride forward blindly, trying to get out of here as fast as you can, but the insect sticks with you for another few minutes. The red marks on your fingers start to burn slowly. Sodal switches its tail angrily as it's turned its head to its left, observing you with one reproachful eye, pinning its ears back. You look around you to make sure nothing tries to jump on you. And once you decide you're safe, you take off the suit. Unless you find an easier way to protect yourself, these insects will keep slowing you down. But at least I kept my blood, so that's a plus. So this is the ford, and there's lots of insects here. Let's go a little bit further. You pass boot prints and cart tracks, rubbish-cut shrubs, moved stones, and trees felled with tools. The forest on your left and right look thick but not too dark. The monkeys and birds spot are small, and the large foraging creatures also keep their distance. The sound of the distant river is relaxingly monotonous. So can I ride in peace for sure? Perhaps. Okay. So we're at a crossroad. I'm going to start reading this next time. It's great that we have 4 signposts to read because we can't actually read. Our character is illiterate, and we have some choices we can make. We could go left at the crossroads from where we are, go east into this scary section. We could go west into the unknown, although we did see what looked like smoke coming from over here somewhere. Or we could go south. I mean, it's all stuff. Oh, we actually got another thing here. So I traveled to the 4 major crossroads that connect the peninsula. Let's look at the map one more time. So that's a crossroad. That's a crossroad. That presumably is a crossroad. So cool. We've done 3/4 of the map here. Well, 3/4 of the main loop. And it is still 37 days before autumn. So like I said, time's going to start bleeding away a little bit more as we move around, but we've taken some time to get to know the world, and I hope you've enjoyed taking some time here. It's a little bit shorter this time, but that's just the way the work and schedule of recording stuff crumbles. So when we continue next time, I have no idea what exactly is going to come of this. I'm half tempted just to see if we can poke our head into the wilds a little bit just to see what's there. But I am also curious to investigate the smoke. And we'll work our way south eventually. So that'll do it for this one. This is Asher. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you liked it. All that stuff. Once again, I appreciate y'all being here. And this is a really interesting ride through a very interesting world. You all take care.